Hi, I'm Janine, and welcome back to Scorpio Moon Astrology. Today, we're taking a look at the full moon in Aquarius that is happening July 29th at roughly 10:36 a.m. Eastern Daylight Time. So, the best time to see that will be the evening of July 29th or even the evening of July 28th. Full moon energy runs a day on either side of the actual full moon. This full moon falls at 6 degrees of Aquarius, directly opposite the sun and Jupiter at 6 degrees of Leo. This is happening just 3 days after my most interesting thing in the sky series for July. That was the day that Saturn stationed retrograde. And unfortunately, I don't have a video for that, but if you want to see it, please take a look at the links in the show notes. Um, but for this full moon, it does not tell a different story than my former article. It simply continues the conversation. You don't need to have read one to understand the other, but it is helpful. So, without further ado, let's go take a look at this full moon. This is the chart of the full moon in Aquarius, sitting right here. We're not going to be using this the whole time because it's hard to untangle this spaghetti mess in the middle, and I want you to be able to see exactly what I'm talking about. But this is the entire chart. I wanted you to be aware of it. Okay, here's the first screen that is important. We've got, let's see if I can write on this. Here's your moon. Here's your moon. As we just said, it is conjunct Pluto at 4 degrees retrograde and Juno at 3 degrees retrograde and Aquarius, and it's sitting opposite a perfect conjunction of the Sun and Neptune. Okay. Um, and really, they're looking in completely different directions here. Okay. Jupiter and the Sun are loud and confident and visible, and they're really expressive. And Leo wants to be seen, and it wants to create, and it wants to express, and whatever story the sun wants to tell, Jupiter is more than happy to amplify it. So they're really looking outward. Okay. But when you get down here, uh, an Aquarius moon is, the moon is emotions, but Aquarius, it gets labeled as emotionally detached a lot. That's really an oversimplification, okay? Often Aquarius steps back so it can get perspective. It wants to understand what it's actually looking at. And sitting with Pluto here, it's not just processing emotions, it's psychologically digging through the surface, beneath the surface. So Pluto is asking where the real power lies. It's stripping away appearances. Aquarius is demanding authenticity. Juno adds another layer by asking, where do our loyalties and alliances really belong? So this moon is not asking, how does this feel? It's saying, what exactly am I looking at? And it's taking a step back and not getting really emotionally attached so it could figure this out. But so typically, an opposition is asking you to balance, but these two, they're having two completely different conversations, and neither side is wrong. They're just looking in two different directions. Okay. The Sun and Leo are looking outward. These guys, they're looking inward. As information does rise to the surface, these guys have the confidence and most likely the audience to say something about it. But do we really believe that we know what it is that we need to share? Let's take a look at Uranus, because Uranus, who is right here, is continuing to stir the pot. And it's what it does in Gemini, okay? It uncovers information. It asks uncomfortable questions. It turns over rocks. The image I used in my most interesting thing in the sky article was Uranus is like that little sand crab digging underneath the sand and throwing up bubbles and sand behind it. It's bringing things to the surface that, with a trine here to the moon, is helpful in trying to fix. So Uranus is providing the information that these guys are kind of stepping back and looking at and going, huh, what do I do with it? It's also providing the inspiration to the sun and Jupiter to express. So really it's acting as a bridge. And Uranus isn't just acting as a disruptor, it's a conduit. And it's also attached to Neptune in Aries. Now, Neptune's in Aries is a spiritual vision, the spiritual warrior, but it's in retrograde. So it, like a lot of other things in the chart, are kind of stepping back and reassessing that vision. Now, Uranus doesn't really care that planets are slowing down and reassessing. It's going to continue digging up information. It's going to continue providing new and exciting and unexpected insights. It doesn't matter what anybody is doing with that last revelation. It's going to continue to provide us with new insights. Now we get to Saturn retrograde. If Uranus represents Aquarius's desire to innovate, Saturn as the traditional ruler, and I should have said, I apologize, we were looking at Uranus because not only is it an aspect to the sun and the moon, it's also Aquarius's modern ruler. Well, Saturn, right here, is Aquarius's traditional ruler. So, and yes, they're as different as night and day. Uranus is, I want to rebel. I want to excite. I want to shock. You're never going to see me coming. Well, Saturn is the tradition, is also the ruler of Capricorn. It is loyal, it is steadfast. It builds things. It is the elder. It likes expertise. It likes hard work. It likes commitment. It's the slow and steady planet, completely the opposite of Uranus. So it has just stationed retrograde a couple days before this full moon. Okay. And it is telling a very different story than Uranus. Saturn is still connected to Pallas Athena right here. Pallas Athena is the goddess asteroid of strategy and wisdom, among other things. So Saturn has been traveling with her. The strategy that it has undertaken, it's been working with it for quite a while now. But Saturn is retrograde, so it's moving away. It's starting to break away from that strategy and it's reevaluating what's been happening. Now, again, it's not connected to the moon. We're looking at it because it is the moon's ruler and it is in play here. So we need to take this into account with this full moon. Now, here's the one thing that Saturn really is still attached to, even though it's separating, is Mercury in Cancer, and a square is tension. And this was exact on June 20th. Okay. This aspect to me talks about burnout. Burnout that may be causing the need to revise your strategy, to revise your plan. So, what was happening for you around June the 20th? Mercury in retrograde is self-care. Now, Mercury is communication and perception and everything. And how are you caring for yourself is one perception. Where are you burning out? Where did you burn out? What's the fallout from that? That's a lot of and it could be burnout from the news. I mean, this is communication, okay? What was happening? What is Saturn reevaluating? What strategy isn't working? That's what Saturn's saying. I am not entirely sure this blueprint works, which is a really huge contrast with Uranus, who is still uncovering new information at full speed. And neither approach is wrong, and both are necessary, and they both need to be taken under consideration. Okay, one last thing to look at in this chart, and that is Mars. Ding, right here. Mars in Gemini wants movement. It does not have the patience for endless analysis. This right here. Oops, let's mark it. This right here is a sesquiquadrate to the moon, and it's a really big mouthful. And really, all you need to know is that it's causing friction. It's less tension and friction than a square, but it is still there. And Mars wants to act on this information. Now, don't worry about this. This is the preopposite. It's simply the midpoint between the nodes. But this is Ceres, and Ceres does play a part. And Ceres and Gemini is Ceres is typically known as like being the mother figure and nurturing. But unlike the moon, she's also indicative of cycles. So really you could look at what communication cycle are we in? What Gemini cycle are we in? Which is exactly what the moon is trying to figure out. What is it doing with all this information that it's getting? Because Ceres, as we know, is the mother of Persephone. So there's always a cycle for her. Mars doesn't really care. Mars wants to push. The moon says, don't push me. I'm still trying to figure it out. Now, Mars is forming a supportive sextile to Pallas Athena here, who really still wants to go with that strategy that she formed. She's an Aries. She wants to move. Mars rules Aries. These two are kind of backing each other up, and the moon's getting the tension saying, don't push me, bro. I'm going to figure this out. One other thing we need to look at, and I don't have it here, is that Mars is squaring Venus in Virgo, and Venus in Virgo says, she's not asking whether we can act. She's asking whether the action still reflects our values. Okay. Venus is about values. Virgo is refining them. Does this path still align with who we are? And it doesn't show it here, but she is also sesquiquadrate to the moon. And that's putting tension from another side. This side wants to act with the information. This side is saying, does it still align with our values? Which is kind of what the moon is backing up to take a look at anyways, and which is also what Saturn that we just saw over here is doing as well. And the moon is stuck in the middle. So what's the best way to work with this full moon? Well, in true Aquarius fashion, that's really up to you. You need to decide, do I have the information that I need? And if so, if you need to express something or speak about something or put something out into the world, you may find a very receptive audience for it. Or you might decide that you don't actually have enough information and you trust that more will be revealed later and you're going to sit for a little bit, or maybe it's a little of both. This full moon really is just making us aware. Things are shifting, cycles are changing. Um, more information is going to be coming out that we need, but we really need to step back and make sure. Let's not be premature, but let's also not do nothing. So I hope you found this helpful. If you want more information or if you want to check out the most interesting thing in the sky piece that I mentioned earlier, please see the links in the show notes in the description. I'm always more than happy to hear from you. All of my services, links for those are also there. If you liked it, please like and subscribe and share this with your friends. Until next time, thank you for joining me.